What's goody with you all today? My name is RayGVT, and today I want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh for a bit, and specifically why I've been away from Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, but what seems like forever now. Most of you, my primary audience anyway, know me as the Yu-Gi-Oh guy, which I am and still am, but lately, I'm not gonna lie, for a while now, I feel like I've been struggling to love this game a little bit. Don't get me wrong, Yu-Gi-Oh is and always will be my favorite game of all time. I feel like nothing's gonna change that anytime soon, but lately I haven't been as active with it as I have been all year. I feel like it's not a single issue or thing specifically that I can pinpoint, but rather a few various issues put together that have made the game just a little bit unpleasant for me. Now, I have to preface this by saying that this is just my personal experience with the game lately and shouldn't be taken as me bashing the game or anyone else for enjoying the game more than I am right now. This is just me kind of speaking my feelings on everything right now. If you're enjoying everything about the game right now, don't let me be the one to stop you, please. I love this game and I always will. There's always been points though when I feel like I just have to take a step back for a bit, and this is just one of those times. Now, the first main reason is the TCG and the current format. It's no secret that the Ishizu Tear deck is the best deck in the current format, undeniably, which isn't the problem in itself. Ishizu Tear is a deck that requires a lot of skill to pilot and isn't just a free win deck just because someone chooses to play it. It's something that actually requires a lot of knowledge and understanding, which is something that I respect a lot. The problem is that it's almost the only deck I feel that I kind of see play, mainly like in the TCG and stuff these days, and it's a deck that can do so much. It has access to so many tools, and it feels like it just has an answer to absolutely everything that you throw at it. I went to my locals a couple of weeks back, and I haven't been to a Yu-Gi-Oh locals to actually play in ages. I usually only attend to hang out, and that's about it, but I went the other day and the locals was packed up. You love to see it. It was a 30-man tournament, and about 20 of those, or like 20 something of those people were all playing Ishizu Tear. 20 or 20 something. I walked around the room past the different tables and I counted how many people were playing the deck, and it was like 20. I look online at all the most recent tournament stats at like YCS events, regionals, etc., and it's predominantly Ishizu Tear, just absolutely dominating the game. Again, it's not the worst thing. Ishizu Tear takes a lot of skill to pilot, but I feel like we don't get to see a whole lot of variety right now. I know there are a variety of decks going around, but it's a shame that we don't get to see a whole lot of them right now, or like a bit of a spotlight being put on something else. The deck just does too much, and it's just hard to play and, you know, have fun when it's the only thing that you ever see. Going from that, the next thing that I want to touch on is just the general skill ceiling of the game and how hard it can be to understand all the game's rules and mechanics and rulings right now, especially if you're a newcomer or someone that's trying to get into the game for the first time. Now, I really don't want to sound like a Yu-Gi boomer when I say this next part, but I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is at a state where if you haven't been playing the game for a long time, or at least the last few or so years, it can be very hard to enter yourself to a level where you're comfortable enough to play the game at a high level. This is in the context if you're a competitive or plan to be a more serious player later down the line. There's so much to understand with the game, from effects, mechanics, summon types, and even for the casual players, it can be a lot to take in. I think back to when I first started playing the game many years ago, back before pendulums were a thing, and though the game was a lot easier, quote unquote, to understand, there was still so much stuff that I had to learn, and I was learning all of that on my own because there was no one to teach me this stuff. I look at the game now and man, I just think about how daunting it must be for a new player to get into the game wanting to be able to play at a comfortable level. And again, I'm not just talking about people who want to play competitively. No, I'm talking about the wider casual audience here too. I used to teach people how to play Yu-Gi-Oh both on and off stream when I started going in with the game and creating content, and I always just tried to explain the game to the bare basics. You know, stuff like levels, summoning types, special summoning, card types, and summoning mechanics. But there's a level that I don't go beyond, and that's when I have to start explaining all the in-between and more advanced rulings and such, because I don't want to scare people by overloading them with information. I usually leave them to do their own research afterwards, but of course, if they have questions, they can still ask me stuff, and I do my best to explain it in a digestible way. Next to that as well, the general power level of the game is just so high. I don't want to say it's sweaty or anything, but I feel like it's just very hard to compete unless you're playing one of those higher tier decks. Now, understand that what I'm not saying is that you have to play a top tier deck if you want to win, but because that's what a lot of what you see, it can kind of feel like it. Yu-Gi-Oh is one of, if not the best card games when it comes to self-expression and deck creativity, in my opinion. So there's always something for everyone, but it's almost like if you want to win, you have to play one of these decks, or this specific deck, or that one. And moving on from that as well, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is the least casual friendly game, or at least it's very hard to play the game casually these days, and there's a range of reasons why that is, or why that could be. First of all, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh lacks the range of formats that other games have to be able to play the game in a variety of different ways. I look at the Pokemon TCG with how they have standard, which is the regulated play for like tournaments and the definitive way to play the game, but they also have stuff like expanded and unlimited format, which let you play the game in other ways outside the main way. Or I look at even something like Vanguard, which has standard, premium, V-premium formats, and while those have their own issues, it still gives a slightly different way to play the game, which can help break up the norm a bit. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have that. I know a while back Konami announced all of these different formats and stuff, but those formats aren't really supported very well still. At least not over here anyway. I know we have speed duels, which are honestly pretty fun, but like, what else? I wish there were more formats that were supported by Konami, you know, or just more ways to play the game differently in like a more casual sense. And finally, sometimes I feel the community can play a part in your overall enjoyment of the game. Now, what do I mean by this? These days, people can be a lot more critical, let's say, especially here on the internet. Like, people know a lot more these days about various decks and cards, but it's like there's always this expectation to always play optimally and always play correctly. And when you don't, you just get barraged with all these things like, oh, you misplayed here. Why did you do this instead of that? Why do you have this card in your deck instead of that? And it's almost like if you're not playing the deck the correct way, then there is a huge problem with that, and people will let you know too. I've had so many times in my streams where I'll be playing Master Duel or Omega, and I'll be trying to learn a new deck, and I'll be having people telling me constantly, play this card, why did you do that? No, that's not what you're supposed to do there. And it gets so freaking tiring sometimes. I had a string of streams one time during October and the month of spooky season where I was trying to learn Vendreads because I was actually planning on making an archetype video on it in time for Halloween. And man, the amount of comments that I was getting in my chat on how I'm supposed to be playing the deck and how I'm piloting it, and keeping in mind that I'm just learning the deck, like, for the first time. Like, I've literally just started playing it. And this has happened so many times too, and not just when I'm learning a deck for the first time, but also mid-duel too. Just unwelcome backseating, people roasting you for not playing right or not playing correctly, or even online or in places like Twitter, people just judging you on why you did this over that, or why you would do X over Y, and it just gets a little bit much sometimes. It's this idea of if you're not playing perfectly, then you're doing something wrong. And I feel like this is a problem that's sort of like almost exclusive to Yu-Gi-Oh and like no other card game. A few other people have actually raised the same issue as well. I know elitism happens to some degree in every game, no matter what game it is, but Yu-Gi-Oh is just different sometimes. I've spent some time away from the game and played other card games this year, and I have not run into this issue in nearly the same way or capacity that I would with Yu-Gi-Oh. Not in Digimon, not in Vanguard, not in Pokemon. There's more space in those games to be able to play more relaxed and casually than in Yu-Gi-Oh! The game that has arguably the most variety, most creativity, and the most freedom of expression of how you can build and play your decks. I just don't get where a lot of this mentality and behaviors come from sometimes. If you're a content creator or a well-known figure in the public community, which I am not, it also feels like these issues are a lot easier to see and experience. I've been experiencing a lot of it myself, and I've just had to take a step back from the game, which is totally okay. And all of this on top of the fact that the game is still very pricey, but that's a whole separate video in itself. The next thing is Master Duel. Now, to be honest, I haven't touched Master Duel in what feels like forever now. And at the time of making this video and having this talk, it's been about 2 months away from the game for me, which is the longest I've ever been away from the game. And I love this game. It's still my game of the year, and I don't care what anybody says or thinks about that. This is literally everything I wanted for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Sim game. Now, Master Duel has its own set of issues because it follows its own format and stuff, but if I'm being honest, I think Master Duel has been doing pretty well, from what I've been seeing anyway. Though I haven't played the game in a while, I have been keeping up with all the new updates. The game has been releasing more updates and has been releasing content drops at a faster pace, which is awesome. There's more structured decks added now, the card pool has been steadily expanding, more stuff for the solo mode and for the single player, more events that have been going on in the game, and also more cosmetic choices for your fields, sleeves, and more mates added too. All of this on top of the new selection packs that get added to the game. The Master Duel archetype vids that I do are genuinely my favorite types of videos to make because they're so much fun to do, and I love diving into these different archetypes that I've never played before. The game is looking better than it has in a while, although there are still quite a few issues that need to be addressed still. And the last reason for why I feel like I've taken a step away from the game a bit is, well, I've been playing other card games. This past year, since the beginning of about December last year in 2021, I decided to start taking a look at some other card games. Now, this all started because I wanted to take a break from Yu-Gi-Oh! At the time. Funny, isn't it? And I genuinely wanted to see what else was out there in the world of TCGs. For as long as I've played Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's only ever been the one and only card game that I've ever played for years. And it wasn't until this year that I decided to pick up some other games. Now, admittedly, this all started as a side quest thing where I would pick up Vanguard for a little while, maybe try Digimon as well, play it for a bit, and then put it down and never touch it again. But I actually ended up liking those games, like really liking those games. They hooked me enough initially, and it took me on this journey that I've been on in this last year to share my experience of playing various other card games for the first time. These are my secondary and side TCGs, but lately I felt like I've been putting way more time and effort into these other games than Yu-Gi-Oh! It also gives me a wider range of things that I can do and cover with my content around TCGs, as well as rather than just staying in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bubble, which isn't bad. I plan on trying to do even more stuff on my channel relating to different card games. The TCG video essay style videos, though time consuming, have been some of my favorite videos to work on because they've been my genuine first thoughts and love for these games that I've come to develop, and I plan on doing more of them in the coming year. And the Master Duel archetype videos are genuinely my favorite types of videos to make, as I stated above. Vanguard Dear Days recently released too not too long ago, and though that's had its own set of issues surrounding its release, it's a game that I do want to spend time with more because I just don't get to play the Vanguard TCG a whole lot these days. Shadowverse also recently just got announced for an English release set for 2023, and I'm planning on jumping on that too because I really like the Shadowverse games and TCG. I feel like I've already got my plate full right now with my main 3 TCGs and recently 4 now with Pokemon, and I've hit my limit because 3 is my absolute limit with card games, and I just refuse to take on more unless they really blow me away like these ones already have. But I really want to fit Shadowverse on my playing table too because I admire that game so much. Beyond that, I also want to branch into doing some more video game related content on my channel while still keeping in line with what I do here with card games and anime related things. Things like silly reviews on these weird anime games that I own and have played on stream and have been wanting to look at for a silly review style that I was thinking of doing. It wouldn't make sense for me to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! And Digimon, then one day randomly just pivot to doing, I don't know, Call of Duty videos or something. So I want to make sure it stays in line with the stuff that I'm already doing. At the same time though, I don't want to lose the focus of this channel, which is primarily Yu-Gi-Oh! Focused content, but I feel like it's not that hard an issue to sort out, and it's something that I just need to figure out how to do effectively. I just have to pace myself properly. Overall, I don't think it's a bad thing that I've stepped away from the game as long as I have. It just feels weird because this is the longest that I haven't really engaged with the game and have actively been steering away from some of the things in the community. I've taken breaks from the game before, and that's totally fine. It's okay to take a step away from something for a bit if you find it's getting too much, or you just need to take a break from it. It's normal. The last time something like this happened was during the Burst of Destiny format, and I just could not stand it then, and I remember just not playing the game for like 3 weeks and then coming straight back like nothing happened, so I know I'll bounce back. I don't mean to sound like I'm doom posting about the game or whining or anything like that. Please do not take any of this like that. Yu-Gi-Oh can just be one of those games where you just need to take a step back and clear up for a bit. And in saying all of that, I plan on doing even more Yu-Gi-Oh related things again for both of my channels. Yes, I still plan on making a lot of content in the new year for this, more deck archetype videos. I also want to try to do more set analysis videos, and I want to try doing more duel challenge videos. There's so much stuff that I still want to do, take a look at, and challenge myself to do. Yu-Gi-Oh is my favorite game of all time. And it's not like I'm quitting or anything. The game is just really insufferable right now. I just need to take a breath for a bit is all. But I hope you guys stick around for the journey too. I just want to stress and emphasize again that this video isn't supposed to be me, dunking on the game or going after, people that are enjoying the game right now. This has kind of just been some thoughts that I've been thinking about a lot lately as to like Yu-Gi-Oh and the current state of the game and my own personal enjoyment and experience with it as of lately. This is literally just me kind of just rambling, and I just want to make that clear and known. You can call me a scrub, you can call me whatever, but I just want to make it known that this is kind of just like my own personal thoughts as of lately and isn't intended for me to be going after anybody in specific or dunking on the game or anybody in the community or the entire community or anything like that. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. I say it a lot, but it's worth saying again. Thank you so much to all of you that have supported me both on here and in my live streams, and thank you for just supporting my content in general. It means a lot. With all of that being said, keep an eye out for more stuff to come. I'll see you guys in the next one, and you guys take care.